the sky is the limit. And that's what I want to show people about TX30. We're not just this big ghetto. This show that Jasmine puts on pretending to be ghetto, or people call her Boquisha, whatever, that is just a complete caricature of what she thinks it means to be real from the South, from TX30, because she doesn't come from that. She comes from high privilege. That's the way she grew up, spending other people's hard-earned money to fund her lavish, privileged lifestyle. But it just goes to show she was willing to do anything that she could to further her brand as an attorney, even if it meant lying, right? Even if it meant holding herself out and really hurting this family, a Black family, right? The people that she claims to care so much about. But she stepped right on them to further herself. And that's what she did with TX30. She stepped right on us to further herself. And people recognize that now.
Sholdon, I appreciate you for joining me today, brother. Thank you very much for your time. Take a moment to introduce yourself to the people, for those of you who don't know, for those who don't know who you are already.
My name is Sholdon Daniels, and I'm a candidate for Congress. I'm running to represent the southern portion of Dallas County, downtown, and up towards Love Field. I'm running against Jasmine Crockett. My congressional district is it's TX30, but it's Texas's 30th congressional district. I'm a 38-year-old dad. I've been an attorney for the past 11 years. I practice criminal defense. I help people who can't really afford the best attorneys, all the way up to big-time cases, rich people. And, obviously working as a criminal defense lawyer, I know a lot of DAs and judges. I'm interested in politics and government. My degree is in that type of deal. And, I'm running to bring real representation to the people of TX30. And what that means is, we have actual issues that we face here in TX30. We have real people, everybody here isn't looking for a handout. Most people here are very hardworking, a lot of small business owners. And so we're more looking for opportunities. We're more looking for when the government is helping to support small businesses or people who are actually trying to work to get more. I want to direct some of those resources back to TX30. I want people to see a tangible change in TX30 and in downtown Dallas. I want it to be safer. I want to fix our schools. We have failing schools here in Dallas and in the surrounding areas. And I want to change a lot of these older systems that we've had for, in America, for some of them for a century or more. And just kind of retool some things with 2025 in mind and the future in mind. I'm also a dad. And so that's where I'm coming from with this deal. I believe in God. I consider myself a Christian man. I go to Church of Christ. My family does too. So that's pretty much who I am.
Now, I see that you're gaining a lot of momentum online, right? And your social media accounts are growing rapidly. Specifically, your X account is growing very quickly. As it pertains to this race against Jasmine Crockett, how much of that online momentum is shifting to the real world on the ground as far as TX30 is concerned and the support around you?
It's definitely playing its role. I'm fighting against a big money machine too. Jasmine has a few $1 million in her coffers, and so I have to fundraise. I'm going to have to be able to run a real campaign if we're serious about winning. And so one of the ways that social media has helped me is just to get word out about my campaign, to rally support from all over the nation. Translating over into, ground level, I get calls and emails every single day from people. I spoke to a gentleman this morning from Beaverton, Oregon, right? People all over the country are supportive. They donate to the campaign. They share my stuff. Most importantly, though, they call the people that they know, their relatives who are here in Dallas, in my district, and they let them know about the campaign. They give me leads and people to go talk to. And so when you're running a grassroots campaign, it's got to be all hands on deck. I'm not like these other candidates. I don't even want to, badmouth anybody, but a lot of times you have people who have a lot of money behind them, and it's more of a top down type deal. We pay all the big institutions, we make big donations, and then they tell everybody to vote for us. We do the photo ops and the whole deal. My campaign is the complete opposite of that. And so I'm actually out in the streets talking to people. I'm letting them tell their stories, what they want to see changed in TX30, because when I do win and I go to Washington, I don't want to be there on my own behalf. I'm there as a representative for the people of TX30. Why I'm better than Jasmine is because, Jasmine's there and it's all about her. Everything she does, it really edifies her. It impacts her bank account immediately. It's creating opportunity for her when she's out of office to go be on these different shows. But the people back here at home, nothing is changing for us. In fact, things are only getting worse. And so I don't care about people calling me what they call me or saying whatever they say. My mission is to go to DC, Take all the arrows, take all the hate, take all that stuff. As long as people back home benefit, people back home win. That's the purpose of me going into that battle. It's not so I can go down there and drink champagne and meet a bunch of world leaders and celebrities. It's so I can get work done on behalf of my family and my relatives and my friends who live back here in TX30.
Now, speaking of TX30, I want to focus in on Jasmine Crockett a little bit more, right? She's made quite a name for herself this year through a lot of her, you can say, profanity laced antics.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Off.
That's it.
Is this a preview to how Democrats will message leading up to 2026? Say
That is correct, Madam
And to be clear, free speech is not about whatever it is that y'all want somebody to say. And the idea that you want to shut down everybody that is not Fox News is bull. We need to stop playing.
We know that we work for the American people. And what we're not going to do is stand around while they pull this bullshit that they trying to pull right now.
Go ahead.
I think she even went as far as to at one point refer to as President Trump as a hoe, if I remember correctly. She called President Trump a hoe.
Yeah.
Is that a proper representation of TX30? Because for those of us who aren't from Texas, let alone not from your district, we look at Jasmine Crockett and say, well, okay, if they voted someone like this in, this must be TX30.
No, absolutely not. Jasmine ran against some pretty sharp people. The problem is the Democrat Party in Dallas and TX30 in particular, it's not a fair fight. That's the easiest way that I can put it. The party, they did a lot of manipulating within their own party to kick candidates off the ballot, to pave a way for this girl because they know she's going to play ball. She's clearly bought and paid for. You look at her voting record, she clearly doesn't care about TX30 or even America. She's fighting harder for illegal immigrants and criminals than she is for law-abiding, hardworking citizens and small businesses like the people who pretty much proliferate throughout TX30. We have a few areas that are pretty impoverished, but even when I go into those areas, people want the same thing. Like they want a good school for their kids. They want a safe community. They want opportunity to come up, so to speak. And so you're talking about entrepreneurial people who know how to make something out of nothing already. If you give them a little bit of opportunity to do things the right way, the sky is the limit. And that's what I want to show people about TX30. We're not just this big ghetto. This show that Jasmine puts on pretending to be ghetto, or people call her Boquisha, whatever, that is just a complete caricature of what she thinks it means to be real from the South, from TX30, because she doesn't come from that. She comes from high privilege. You know what I mean? And so for her to try and connect, the only thing she knows how to do is try and press on these cultural cues, the long nails, the wig, the neck roll, the honey child, and these are things that anybody can pick up if they're looking in our community from the outside looking in. Anybody can mimic that stuff. And that's all she's doing, is she's mimicking us. But no, we're real people. We're educated people. We want more. We want what's best for us and our families. And we don't need people up there pretending to be one of us and doing it in such a disgraceful manner.
Speaking of being educated people, going back to Jasmine Crockett, I haven't looked into it too much, but I've heard passingly over and over again that this is actually an act, and that she actually comes from kind of somewhat of a well-to-do family, went to like an expensive private school. Can you confirm that at all from what you've heard?
It's true. Yeah, it's absolutely true. Her parents got rich in the big time churches. They're one of those, you think of those preachers who make a lot of money, right? Just, showing up every Sunday, and passing that collection plate around. That's the way she grew up, spending other people's hard-earned money to fund her lavish, privileged lifestyle. And that's why when she goes to DC and she has no problem supporting this huge bloated government where we can't even keep track of where the money's going, she wants to continue to tax this and tax that and tax this. They're trying to kill small business. They don't care about individual rights and freedoms. You better do what the Democratic Party tells you to do, or you don't get to do. You don't get to exist. You get canceled. And that's the world she's coming from. She doesn't even really consider herself a Democrat, right? She considers herself technically a progressive, but she admitted in an interview that she had to pass herself off as a Democrat in order to get this election. And so she's completely dishonest in everything that she does, from pretending to be a blue collar, common sense American to pretending to be a fighter for the marginalized and for people of color, it's all an act.
Speaking of dishonesty, this is actually a great segue into a question that I have for you, because to me, this was very honorable that I saw on your X account. And I want to read this tweet that you have up here. Transparency matters. I put in 16-hour days fighting for this campaign, and every hour counts. Instead of losing 3 to 4 hours daily driving, I like to hire a driver, $100 a day, Monday through Friday, so I can stay focused on winning TX30. And then you put a poll up asking your supporters. I'm asking my supporters, are you with me on this? Let me know. And your supporters, 92.5% said, sure, hire the driver to assist you. You could have probably just done that and nobody would have known. Why was it important for you to make that public and have that level of transparency on something as some people would think would be as little as just getting a driver? Why was that important to you to make that public?
A number of reasons. I'm trying to lead by example, and I understand what the role of U.S. representative is. You're a representative. I think people have grown so accustomed to seeing our politicians do everything except for what they're supposed to that many of these people, especially the young ones, they don't even know what the real job is. Their entire life, all they've seen them do is do this on these TV shows and try to get sound bites. And so I wanted to set the example. I represent you people. You guys donated to my campaign. First of all, I know it's only $100, but from where I come from, if you have a driver, that is like big time, right? And I'm 38 and I've been a lawyer 11 years, but people describe me as still being very, very grounded. Like I'm still very like penny pinching in my mind. I'm still like afraid of ending up back in the hood. So I'm very conscious of how I spend, especially with other people's money, right? And so these people donated to my campaign. They want me to be a good steward of that money. It's just something in me just felt like I needed to get permission to have a driver because, I'm a hardworking guy, man. Like I don't need a driver, right? But I need a driver. But I wanted to make sure that, the people knew that, hey, I'm going to be paying this guy to drive me around and basically video me when he can. But I want you guys' permission because if you guys say no, then I won't do it. And so I want to take that same mentality to Capitol Hill. I know there are rules when I'm actually a congressman to what I can discuss if it's still pending legislation or whatever. But anytime I have an opportunity to get the opinion of the American people, I think we should utilize social media for that exact purpose.
Now, as it pertains to character, because I want to stay kind of on that topic very briefly, I came across this story and I'm curious if you know about it and to what degree your district is aware of this, in which a few years back, I want to say back in 2022, the family of Botham Jean, and for those who don't remember that story, Botham Jean was the young man that had his life taken by Amber Geiger, who was a police officer. She was off duty at the time, coming home. She walked into Botham Jean's apartment, believing that it was her apartment, and ended up killing him, thinking that he was an intruder, right? Jasmine Crockett actually misrepresented herself as being one of the lawyers of Botham Jean's family, to which they had to issue out a cease and desist letter to get her to stop pretending to be their family lawyer when she wasn't. Is this something that you are aware of? And do the people of your district know about this story?
This is something that I'm aware of. Not many people in the district know about this story because the Democrats, and you need to understand something about Dallas. The local media here, from the Dallas Morning News, the Dallas Observer, 95% of our major institutional media here in Dallas, they are staunchly blue. They are 100% Democrat, and so when their darling, right, Jasmine, makes a mistake, they cover it up. You see, the story had to get broken by a journalist down in South Texas, through the Texas Tribune. That should have come out in the Dallas Morning News. But there's a reason they don't want voters informed about Jasmine Crockett, right? Now, wait until they start running polls and they start seeing how much ground I'm gaining in the district, and watch how the Dallas Morning News goes and reports on anything that they can find about me. But stuff about that happened right here in Dallas that relates to a situation that is of national interest, Dallas Morning News is completely silent on that deal. And that's just an example. And so it's part of my job to educate voters and to inform voters. And I'm telling people about that. And the more people hear about that, they're just disgusted with her because it tracks. You know, as an attorney, Jasmine came into this deal. And let me tell you something about being a lawyer. Most people assume that all lawyers are successful and rich, right? But there's a lot of lawyers out there who kind of give lawyers a bad name. It's easy for a rich person like Jasmine to get a law degree, come out, buy the fancy car, already have the Gucci bags, already being able to buy all the stuff. So people in their mind, they think that she's a successful attorney. No, she's an attorney who happens to already be really rich. She's actually not that great of an attorney, based on what people have told me. I'm not personally saying that. But it just goes to show she was willing to do anything that she could to further her brand as an attorney, even if it meant lying, right? Even if it meant holding herself out and really hurting this family, a Black family, right? The people that she claims to care so much about, but she stepped right on them to further herself. And that's what she did with TX30. She stepped right on us to further herself, and people recognize that now. And so, you know, her days are numbered. And absolutely, when you're talking about character, clearly Jasmine Crockett has no character. She made fun of a guy for being in a wheelchair, something that was not of his fault at all, right? And he still has dedicated his life to public service, way more than she's ever done. It just goes to show who she is as a person. It's disgusting.
Now, the last thing that I want to ask you is this. She recently did an interview and it went viral because she was asked a very direct question concerning whether or not she has policies that she's trying to push through the House and legislation that she wants to pass, you know, for the people to move America forward. She literally said, no, I have none, and literally stated, I should really be a better politician, if I remember correctly, which is
Yeah,
outrageous.
those were her exact words.
Why are you a better politician?
Because I'm not an influencer, number one. You know, I'm a brass tacks. I'm a nuts and bolts fixer type guy. I'm a deal maker. For the past 11 years, I've earned the respect of all these judges and all these attorneys and all these different counties up here in North Texas for a reason, right? It's because I work hard, I show up, I go the extra mile. Most importantly, I deliver the results, right? That's the most important thing. And so Jasmine has never delivered. When she was in State House, she never passed a law. She never brought enough influence to make any noticeable change in our district. All she does is say a bunch of things that a lot of people agree with, right? So she's looking for the amen. And so she's coming into this deal with this pastor's mentality of just talk and get that amen, right? Like when she was talking about Governor Abbott, and she looks up when people kind of liked it and she sees and then she takes it a step further. That's what she does. Okay, but I'm not like that. You won't ever see me on the Breakfast Club. Okay, you'll see me doing my thing and trying to use my influence to help make TX30 and to help make America a better place. But for the most part, you're going to see me filing bills. You're going to see me meeting with my colleagues on Capitol Hill, trying to get things done and getting things done. And so that'll be the difference. And I'm hoping that I also inspire a bunch of other common sense, you know, red-blooded Americans to run for office and bring, at least in the House of Representatives, a certain air of respectability, right, to the office. I think, you know, the Senate is supposed to be for people who have a lot of money, right? That's like the upper house, and that's how it was designed. That's why there's two chambers to Congress. The U.S. House of Representatives is supposed to be filled with people like myself. You know what I mean? Hardworking people who have served this country, who want to go to Washington, D.C., serve for 4 or 6 years, get a lot of good work done, and then go back home to your families and do that deal. We have these career politicians like Jasmine who clearly, obviously thought that something else was going to happen in the general and that this whole thing was going to pan out for her. She was going to make all this money and nobody was going to be able to touch her. And that's why they're all upset right now. And so that's the difference you're going to get. You're going to get somebody who's going to remind you and remind America of what a U.S. representative is really supposed to do.
Sholdon, I appreciate you joining me today. Let the people know where they can reach you at, how they can find you, how they can donate to your campaign, so on and so forth.
Awesome. First of all, man, I got to tell you again, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a pleasure and an honor. For the people who want to support our movement, to put America first, to make TX30 rise again, baby, go to danielsforus.com, danielsforus.com. It's You can follow me on all the socials. Sholdon Daniels on X, Sholdon Daniels on TikTok, and Sholdon Daniels for the People on Facebook. Talk to me. I'll talk back.